Hello, I'm Kimberly, and welcome to the weekend edition of the NAVE News Update. It's Friday, May 29th. Many of the stories you hear here can be found at IndianCountryNews.com. And here's the news for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. The Department of Justice proposed legislation that would require states or localities whose territory includes part or all of an Indian reservation, an Alaska Native village, or other tribal lands to locate at least one polling place in a venue selected by the tribal government. American Indians and Alaska Natives have faced significant obstacles that have prevented them from enjoying equal access to polling places and equal opportunities to cast a ballot. In addition to suffering from a long history of discrimination, the distance many Native Americans and Alaska Native citizens must travel to reach a polling place presents a substantial and ongoing barrier to full voter participation. Following formal consultations with tribes, the Department of Justice believes that there is a pressing need for federal legislation to ensure equal access to voting by Native American voters. The Department of Justice sent a letter to Congress with a legislative proposal which would ensure that American Indian and Alaska Natives have access to at least one polling place in their communities to cast their ballots and require a number of additional obligations to ensure parity with other polling places. A federal judge in Washington, D.C. has set a June 29th hearing to consider what to do with $380 million in unclaimed funds generated in a discrimination case against the U.S. Department of Agriculture by Native Americans. Of $680 million paid to settle the Keepseagle versus Vilsack case, $380 million was not claimed. The settlement required that any unclaimed funds be paid to a nonprofit organization other than a law firm, legal service entity, or educational institute that has provided agricultural business assistance or advocacy services to Native American farmers between 1981 and November 1, 2010. Given the unexpectedly large amount of unclaimed funds, the class lawyers asked the USDA to modify the agreement. Joseph Sellers, lead counsel for the class, says his clients have suggested the funds be put in a trust to disperse funds over 20 years to nonprofit organizations with educational entities and tribal-sponsored organizations, as well as new nonprofits that help Native American farmers and ranchers. Decisions making grants would be made by a 13-member Native American board, and the USDA has agreed in principle to this option. For more information, you can check out IndianFarmClass.com. The Department of Housing and Urban Development is in the process of creating new regulations to prohibit federally funded Native American housing projects from rejecting candidates because of sexual orientation or gender identity. The new rules will be put in place sometime next month and are part of the Obama administration's concerted effort to stop discrimination of people who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, or transgender. While HUD already bans discrimination against people for their sexual orientation, Native American federal housing has remained exempt from the federal rules because of tribal sovereignty. By targeting Native American federal housing, the Obama administration is attempting to establish a legacy of advancing LGBT rights and protections into adverse communities. After clearing a hurdle at the Portland Public Schools Board in Oregon, a unique housing project is on track to break ground this September. The Native American Youth and Family Center is launching Generations, a $22 million project that will turn a 3.5-acre Foster Elementary School site in Lentz into a multi-generational Native American-focused housing complex with 6 classrooms, 2 daycare rooms, a health center, and longhouse for gatherings. The Generations project's first phase will offer living space to 30 elders and 10 families who will agree to foster Native American children. Though Native Americans account for approximately 1% of the population in Multnomah County, they make up 22% of the county's foster children. According to a 2011 study, Portland is 9th in the nation for its population of urban Native Americans, but its achievement figures lag far behind those of similar cities. With Generations, the Native American Youth and Family Center hopes to close that gap by offering supportive foster homes and early childhood education in a supportive, culturally relevant environment. The head of tourism for Wisconsin's 11 Native American tribes is trying to develop a series of TV shows that will highlight the reservations as attractive places to visit. Ernie Stevens III, Executive Director of Native American Tourism of Wisconsin, is shooting video of the reservation's lakes and rivers, festivals, and more. He says the organization is putting together a pilot program that he hopes will lead to additional shows. Wisconsin Public Radio says the tourism group is trying to raise $25,000 by early August to launch the project. And that's another roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. I'd like to thank you for joining me and have a grand day.